Retail workers of Reddit, what is your best method for passing time? Folding. I got so good at folding, without a board, so would spend hours perfecting stacks of shirts. Also, dusting, organizing, and cleaning things that people never see. As long as I had decent music it could really help the shift go by fast. But if anyone told me to clean I would get annoyed, lol. I used to work 2 days a week as assistant manager. I would receive orders, do inventory, place the orders for the next week, and place the majority of the stock we received. Some days I had to clean the slush machines, or the candy boxes, or other little tasks that no one ever did but me. Music made all of those boring as crap tasks bearable. I organized. My last retail job had a long-standing policy of no one was allowed to be doing nothing behind the counter because a significant amount of merchandise was behind the counter, which was so stupid so customers could shop while we were working. I made sure the shelves and pegs were organized, clean and shopable. I reorganized. I worked at a very slow record store and would move the records around like customers would, then would go back and put them in alphabetical order. I had a friend that worked at a Walmart in college and he was convinced that an employee that looked like they were working was invisible to the management staff. So he took a big broom and walked around the same set of aisles for an entire 8-hour shift and did nothing else to see if they would notice. The same manager walked by him 22 times and never said a word to him. Piece of advice to some of you. I used to draw sad clowns on the back of receipt paper. The sadder the better. Am I the only one who is interested in how the frick you draw a sad clown? I work as a grocery cashier and it gets boring fast scanning items and standing for hours and time goes by very slow. I play a game with myself where I choose look for count for one specific thing like bad tattoo, so every 10 people I see who I consider to have a bad tattoo I check the clock. Every 20 people who come in with their dog in a stroller, very common in my store, I check the clock act. Definitely lots of people watching, coming up with games about the customers or with the customers. I think retail stoked my love of conflict because it broke up the day when a customer was in butthole. I worked at Party City for 4 years and would not have been able to do it without Bluetooth headphones. My hair goes past my ears, so I'd put one headphone in one ear and hide it with my hair, then have the other ear free if people needed me. Podcasts and audiobooks saved my sanity. Imagine how terrifying it would be to a customer if you were listening really intensely. I know this seems crazy, but actually talking to customers can be pretty incredible. So many people starved for human interaction and everyone has an interesting story. Walks up to customer, hey, what up? We have work phones with optional earpieces, the transparent Secret Service coiled earpieces. I just plug that into my phone and listen to audiobooks. 4 hours of listening so far today, 3 books finished so far this year. Hella smart. Worked, mainly, boring. But when things were slow, one of us would go to one end of the store. It was an anchor store in the mall, and we'd toss a Nerf football back and forth. I had to Google that one because I didn't believe there was a store especially to sell anchors. Talking to customers. It's fun when you're like, so Carol was the one with baby and she had no husband to look after her. That's horrible by the way, your total is 47.99. Okay, thank you, have a nice day. I sell car parts. Sometimes people have cooler old weird cars. Anytime someone comes in with a Corvair I shout and safe at any speed and we have a half-hour chat about him. I worked as an overnight stocker for 2 years. During that time I thought up and worked out a story idea in my head. When I got an office job I needed to fill time at, I wrote that story over 3 years of extra free time. I finished the first draft last year and have been taking a break from it while working on a new story. I'm an overnight department head in a grocery store. Similarly, I dream up recipes and then try them out when I get the chance. The boredom is real. 2 things come to mind. Organizing the backrooms to be able to walk back and without searching grab the product for a customer. The other was stopping the scammers. My favorite pastime was winning against the quick change artists. I would let them play their game, keeping a mental tally of where things were, then at the opportune moment say, oh my god I am so confused, and slam my register drawer shut. Apologize to the quick change artist and say I have to count my drawer. I think I gave you the wrong change. Please wait here, I will be right back. Call my manager over and disappear to the back to count with a witness. Comically, the quick change artist never stuck around for me to count. 99% of the time my drawer was spot on afterwards. The one time it wasn't, it was a repeat quick change artist that had scammed a coworker out of $40. Needless to say, I evened the score. When I worked retail, I always brought a book with me or brought something that I wanted to learn. Book on a language I wanted to learn. When I worked retail, before smartphones existed, we played hide the bear. We had small dollhouse sized teddy bears that were random colors. One person would clean and pull the stock forward on the shelves and hide the bear, then would swap out with the cashier after chatting for a bit and let the cashier hunt down the bear. Rinse and repeat. I work at a restaurant and we have a duck that we hide. He was green, now he is black, so it's harder to find him. I like to do what I call the customer summoning ritual. It involves doing literally anything else, and as soon as you're deep into that task, customers will instantly be lined up demanding service like they've been waiting hours for help. Worked in a generic retail store that had catalogs. We used to use a random phrase from the catalog and see how many words we could make from the letters. I no longer work in retail, but when I was being a checkout chick, we would ask customers would you rather questions. My favorite was would you rather lose your sense of taste or your sense of smell? I know you lose some of your sense of taste if you do lose your sense of smell, but let's say in theory you don't. It kept us entertained for hours until the assistant manager didn't find it funny and told us we weren't allowed to ask customers would you rather questions. When I worked retail, there was never a shortage of work to do, so taking on a project made the day go by much faster. So, actually working. Man, I wish I could have seen this post and knew, because I know now this will get buried. I created a game at the store I work in that is simply called What You Doin'. The premise is simple. Pick up any item and begin walking laps around the store. The goal is to see how many laps around the store you can do before someone asks you what you're doing. Bonus points for walking by the same employee a couple times. I'd try this if I wasn't assigned a role and needed to stay in that one area. Movie theater. Also Happy Cake Day. Used to work at McDonald's. I'd only focus on getting to the next hour of my shift and then the next. Thinking about a whole 9 hours in that place was too depressing. I work in a deli, blowing up gloves like balloons then sticking them to random places, drawing dongs on things, talking to crazy customers, great time waster if they mention anything conspiracy related, swatting flies, press the bell in the butcher section a million times to pee off co-workers, eat random crap out of the display, antagonize my crappy boss, leave all the cool room doors open and see how long it takes for head office to call and tell us off. Slap the hams and pretend they're butt cheeks. See how far across the shop I can slide when the floor is wet. Ride trolleys around. Burn things with the shrink wrapping machine. Change the language on all the scales to Hindu. Clean the display windows and see how long it takes an bratty kid or full grown adult to rub their disgusting greasy hands all over it. Take count of the amount of times customers mispronounce completely simple product names. Throw prawns at people. The list goes on. Really. As a former grocery butcher employee, the bell comment made me cringe. Not a retail worker, but I'm a hostess at the really slow diner. So the diner has large windows around the whole building and there are a bunch of booths that line the walls. The window shades are remote controlled and you can open and close them individually. When I get bored, I take the remote and open and close the blinds next to occupied booths and see how many times I can open and close them without the table noticing. They notice every time. I just start organizing, cleaning the things people miss or just doesn't get done. Looks good in front of management and you will less likely have to deal with customers, whereas those who are conversing will most likely talk or help out the customer. When no one is around, I'd see how fast I can pull things down from the highest racks with the pole we had with a hook on the end. Needless to say, I got really good at it. If there's really nothing to do and the manager on duty is chill, I'll try on some stuff or look at stuff I might want to buy. I'm a woman who works in the men's department in a department store. I like to try on the jackets and hoodies over my clothes. Hats and scarves too. Whatever I can put on without going into the fitting room. Also our clearance section is fun to go through, and I can pretend I'm cleaning because it's always kind of a mess over there. Otherwise, I'll just talk to my co-workers. They literally had to buy a security cage to keep the toys locked down in the back. They were delivered with a security escort. People were ordering 100 Happy Meals with no food because we couldn't sell the toys by themselves. One day I heard a commotion up front and found my high school counselor reaching across the counter grabbing one of the owners by the shirt because we were out of the pink flamingo. I'll never forget the look in her eyes. She had to be dragged out. It's scary how easy it can be to work people up into a frenzy. My goal with my co-workers was to basically become like the Dante and Randall in Clark's. Crappy jobs, but they had fun passing the time. As a former retail employee, I'd like to say making the shop look and function better to really feel like my job was worthwhile. In reality, I spent a lot of time staring at a blank whiteboard lamenting my earlier life choices. Also stealing food and eating it. Honestly, not trying to come off as snarky here, but I just work. I work in a large bookstore chain and there is always something to do. There are always books to shelve properly. There are always customers to help, orders to pick up, making sure the stacks of books are in order so customers can find what they are looking for more easily. Some of my co-workers don't have that attitude though, or there is always something to do and they find themselves really bored and the time just never seems to move forward. A lot of the younger cashiers just stand there waiting for a customer to come up and just do nothing and say there's nothing to do. I could list off 5 things off the top of my head that they could be doing while waiting for a customer to come up. I have been in retail for over 15 years. There are days where it seems like time is at a crawl, but I still always have something to do. Don't get trapped in the mindset of, oh well, I finished my task, now I just have to wait out the clock until my shift is done. No, do something. Go ask your manager if there is something else that needs to be done. Heck, even just general wiping of counters and sweeping. If you stand around waiting for your day to be over, it will never be over. Working makes the time go faster than anything. I never have enough time to squeeze everything in. Customer bingo was always good. Make up the squares together beforehand. Making the squares is actually the most fun part. Person with colored hair. Somebody asked to speak with the manager. Couldn't park in 2 or less parking spaces. etc. My favorite thing was passive aggressively doing everything under my job description. Heel toe, long strides, obsessive 360 scans of the store, pulling out bins and bins of clothes to refill, the whole 8 yards. I refused to dust mop, apply crumble and stitch BC of my allergies. My managers would notice this and pull me aside saying that they appreciate the amount of work being done but that I'm creating a hostile work environment. But, as far as I could tell, everyone else picked up the pace. BC I was able to stealthily and actively delegate duties to the other associates who were moving at a snail's pace. By the time I would be confronted, it's already 3/4 the way through my shift and I've got the whole store being more productive, so when I come in the next morning, I can relax and stand around with my coffee, something I can't normally do unless there's things to be done. 2 birds, 1 stone. And yes, I still have the smell of that store permanently sealed into the inside of my nostrils. I would usually write D&D characters or just fantasize about being in that world during whichever campaign we were in the middle of, kind of like writing fan fiction in my head. I do it to music a lot, to the point my taste has changed to be primarily epic musical numbers you'd hear in movies or during a fight scene. When I was a hostess at a restaurant, one of the other hosts used to quiz me and the other girls to see if we can name the US states, state capitals, countries in Europe, South America, etc. Good for downtime, and easy to pick back up once the rush ended. I teach my co-worker physics, not that I'm anywhere near expert, just interested. It's the best when he comes with some ridiculous question, like I wanna fly, but without any machine frick. Yeah, let's find a way. How about magnetic levitation controlling probability, a la Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, warping space, time fabric, you name it. I worked in retail for a couple of months during the Christmas, and honestly the best way to pass time was to just work. Whatever the task was, working at the till or cashier, hanging clothes, helping customers. Making lists. I would either carry a small notebook or use register tape or my order pad and make lists of errands to run, of my budget, of books to read, of life goals, whatever. It took up my brain and also helped me organize my time outside of work, too. And you look busy when you're writing, even if it's not actually work related. I'm a deli clerk and I can see the pain of all the other co-workers in the store as they face shelves and restock. I just slice meat and cheese, and occasionally think about slicing my wrists too because frick is it boring in any part of a grocery store. I just play a game where I see how many kids ask their parents for things as they pass. 1. Because I like the excuse the parent makes, and 2. Well, because I love kids and like hearing their excuses for why they should have said item. Wireless headphone for music on low volume. I've got a switch on the back of my hat that turns it off, changes volume, and changes songs. The key is to only have one in so you can still hear and be aware of your surroundings but so that you don't go brain dead on the job. Worked in retail for 5 years. Time passed faster when boss wasn't around and second, just doing everything a bit slower than I normally would. After some time you know how much time you need for doing a specific thing, so just slow down or take a toilet break now and then, make some coffee etc. Best method we used. Usually after 6 PM there was just 2 people in store and if it was me and one of my best buddies from work we would just be separate the time so 15 minutes I'm in the office chilling and then 15 minutes for him until we closed. If we needed each other we had a bell to ring for the person in the office. When I worked at Dollar General I would stand in a corner, one that didn't have a camera on it, and just pass time on my phone. Oh, I'm allowed to be on my phone at work, so I just browse Reddit, or flirt with people on apps, as long as my till isn't short I am gold. Other than that, I try to keep in shape as I get to work outside almost all day, so light power walks and stuff. Trailer mechanic here. I work on FedEx trailers and dollies and the best way that I pass time is pretending I'm working a spaceship like the Falcon or something. Around 19 years of retail experience here. The best way to move the time on the clock is to actually work. The days that grind my gears the worst are the ones where I let myself think there's not really anything needing done. And in all that time, the folks who least like the job are the ones who rarely actually want to do the job. I get it. The pay may be low. Mine's nearly tripled in the 17 years at this current job, so that ain't too bad. But if you're miserable, find somewhere else to be. That crap's contagious, and not all of us want to live life stressed and annoyed all the time. I look at what people are buying and try to decide if it's going to be some sort of party or the makings of a murder mystery. We sell a wide variety of stuff, so it's a fun game. Working. There's always crap to do in a grocery store. When I was a hotel clerk, I would read novels. I'd run out of work to do on a regular basis. Hey, if you're depressed the day just kinda slides by. You don't remember what you did or what you said, half the time, but boy does the time go by. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.